Is Marvel Rivals better than Overwatch? I feel like this is a question that's been asked a lot lately since, people have seen the similarities between Marvel Rivals and Overwatch. After putting about 100 hours, I feel like making a comparison video because I feel like there are a lot of similarities and I think there's some things that Marvel Rival does better than Overwatch. But before we start the video, 99% of you are not subscribed, so please subscribe and make sure you guys like the video. And let's talk about, is Marvel Rivals better than Overwatch? So when it comes to performance or optimization, Overwatch is the clear winner, there's no doubt about it. I'll give credit where it's due, even if I don't like Overwatch and its meta currently. Optimization for this game is absolutely insane. I'm running a 7800 X3D CPU with a 4070 GPU, and I'm basically hitting 600 FPS, like it's smooth as it can be. I would cap it at 540, and even then, the worst dips I would get is 480. My PC can definitely run games at extremely high frame rate, but when it comes to Marvel Rivals, it's a very big struggle. Like even with low settings and ultra performance DLSS, I'm basically just sitting around 200 to maybe 280 frames per second, and it would definitely dip down low to like the 180s, or sometimes I've even seen it dip down to 160, and then it can stutter sometimes. And I did check my task manager during me playing, because I thought to myself like, whoa, why am I getting such low frames? And I saw that it was using like 100% of my GPU, which is pretty insane considering the fact that I am playing on low settings with DLSS ultra performance. So if it's still using that amount of GPU, then it's crazy to think that my 4070 is literally a bottleneck when I'm playing Marvel Rivals. So I have to give it to Overwatch here, because especially when it comes to games that are really hard to run where you need better specs, it makes the game less inaccessible to people who don't have the craziest PC parts. A lot of people are going to be running like 1650s or 2060s, so Marvel Rivals definitely does need to optimize the game a lot more better. And it's the Unreal Engine 5 effect, is where everything is going to be a lot more harder to run. Like just look at the recommended specs for Alan Wake 2, it's ridiculous, especially because Marvel Rivals is meant to be like a competitive game. They need to work on their optimization ASAP, but it's only beta, so when the full release comes out in 2025, hopefully they optimize it like really well. So when it comes to the balancing of Marvel Rivals and Overwatch, I am more lenient to Marvel Rivals, and I'll explain why. So of course, Overwatch balancing has been very concerning, let's just say that. There's a lot of denial like abilities like Suzu, Lifeweaver, Paul, Baptiste Immortalities. The metas have been basically horrendous, like even like right now season 11, Mauga is basically A to S tier, and Mauga is literally the most boring tank play with and against. Don't get me wrong, there are some fun parts of Overwatch, but it feels like the most boring characters are definitely the best characters to play because you get so much value from them. But overall in Overwatch, it just feels like everything is either denied. You try to get a pick, you get Suzu, Baptiste Lamp, Pool, whatever. Like it becomes very frustrating to play Overwatch. Like it doesn't really feel fun. It feels more tedious or agitating just to play the game. It can be fun. I'm not trying to say Overwatch is never fun, but there's a lot more BS than there is good. And even in Marvel Rivals, there's a lot of BS ults. But the thing with Marvel Rivals is that everything is basically overpowered to an extent. Like let's say people have a problem with Punisher's ult, for example, because he's basically a Mauga that's really accurate when you ult. But the thing about it is, one, it's an ultimate, and number two, you can still kill Punisher. He doesn't really get any type of crazy buff or like instant heals or overhealth when he ults. If you catch him off guard, you can literally just beam him during his ult. So it doesn't really feel that bad. Like everything feels OP. The only thing I can say that is really OP in Marvel Rivals is definitely Lux's ult. Lux's ult essentially just makes everybody immortal during her ult because it just outputs so much healing. But it's like what I said again, it's just an ult. Like there's no abilities that really makes the game super unplayable compared to like Suzu, Pool, and Bap Immortality. And I think that's what makes the game really fun, is because yes, you do get denied, but it's only by ults. And it's just the same thing how Overwatch 1 was. If Zarya grabbed, you would have beat. The point I'm trying to make is you're firing an ult with an ult, but in Overwatch it just feels like even if you do ult, the abilities of some heroes just literally are just as strong as ults. And that's the issue with Overwatch right now, is that there's too much deniability and too much strength in some kits compared to Marvel Rivals where everything is over-kitted essentially. Like there's a reason why Sigma was still extremely playable in 5v5 format compared to Reinhardt, because Reinhardt doesn't have the amount of kit that Sigma does. Sigma has much more than Reinhardt does. So I'm gonna give this one a draw just because both are very, very unbalanced. So I'm gonna give this a draw just because both are quite unbalanced, but I am leaning towards more Marvel Rivals just because it's a lot more fun, because even with these ults you can definitely play around them a lot more. Because if you, let's say even with Lux's ult, if somebody decides to step out of Lux's ult or is out of position out of her ults, you can easily kill them, and I've done it many times, especially with like Magneto's ults. So it's like, that's why I do prefer Marvel Rivals, just because everything is not denied. You can still counter ults, it's just a lot more harder to deal with. But I'm gonna give this one a draw. Okay, so when it comes to the heroes and lore, probably Overwatch wins this one by a tiny bit, because when it comes to Marvel, you obviously have the comics, you have the movies, so I don't want to count it because Marvel Rivals is just like, I'm just trying to compare the games together. With Overwatch, there's not very much lore about the game, and obviously with the cancellation of the PvE mode, which obviously was basically going to be a story mode for Overwatch, they essentially just don't have any lore to begin with, and they even messed it up with Kiriko by making her like so much more younger, but also she trained with Genji and Hanzo when they were like kids, so it's like really weird. But other than nitpick, well, not really nitpick because, you know, that's still part of the lore, there's not really much going on for Marvel Rivals when it comes to lore. Like, you do have character descriptions and stuff, which is nice, but both are basically loreless when it comes to just the games. But if we're talking about movies and comics for Marvel Rivals, obviously it's gonna win because you have so much content outside of the game when we're talking about Marvel, compared to Overwatch where they basically just cancel the story mode. So this one's up to you, but I'm just gonna give it a draw just because if we're just because I'm just specifically comparing the games, there's not really much to talk about here because the lore for games are just they just don't really exist too much. So my personal opinion on which game I prefer right now, I'm gonna have to say Marvel Rivals, honestly. Right now, Marvel Rivals is way more fun and fresh. I do want to play Overwatch and I do want to keep playing Overwatch, but with the game and how the meta is, especially because I'm a tank main, it just feels awful. And especially in the 5v5 format for Overwatch, there's not really any way to properly balance the game, especially because Blizzard is just dumb when it comes to balancing, and I'm probably gonna make a video about that at some point. It just feels really rough around the edges. But with Marvel Rivals, yes, there is a lot of unbalanced stuff, but at the same time, it's like after you play the game for a while and you actually hit those high like elo numbers, like I was in like top 500 lobbies yesterday, and I gotta say, like, the way you play and stuff like that, it doesn't really, like, these ults are not like super overpowered as everyone says. If you have good positioning and you know if they probably have ult and they're probably gonna use it soon, it's really not that hard to actually avoid these ults. Yes, you could probably get died to an ult and 2, it will always happen, but overall it just feels a lot more fun. It feels a lot more refreshing to play a game that where if I play DPS, I know I can get kills. If I play tank, I know I can tank properly. Even now, like, I can literally solo tank as Magneto if I have a Scarlet and literally carry the game. It's actually quite insane how much more fun and experimental Marvel Rivals is compared to Overwatch, where Overwatch feels like you have to play in a certain way. In the Marvel Rivals, if I feel like I don't have enough damage in my team, I will literally go DPS and just farm the supports and we just win. Like, it just feels so much more freeing in a way. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please, again, make sure you subscribe and like the video, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Peace.